It was all a bunch of sweet wines to destroy everybody's glasses. I just like,
Ew.
I lost my mind. Anyways,
Ew.
yes, I'm
That's
done
gross.
ranting now. Now I'm over it. Wines you can show up at the holidays, not spend a ton of money, get something real, get something that grandma's gonna like, you know, and where can you find flavors that like, whether they're a big time sommelier, it's the first wine they've ever had, that they'll be like, this is delicious.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Alexandria, and welcome to Choochoo-ca-Chew. And today we are tasting wine with Tyler.
I brought some of my favorite things to taste today. My biggest problem with holiday drinking is getting together with family and friends, and either I watch them drink really expensive wine really fast and not have any appreciation for it. I also bring good wine and have them all hate it and dump out most glasses. And I really wanted to find wines that like I could bring and find delicious with everybody.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about your experience in wine?
I got my kind of start in the wine scene working at a small little wine shop, or big wine shops at first, and then down to a really small little wine shop. And the unique thing was that it was connected to a retail store. Connected to a restaurant. Wine shop connected to a restaurant. And the cool thing was you could take any bottle from the shop into the restaurant with no corking fee. So restaurants usually kind of mark up their wines pretty high. So what you would normally spend at a liquor store for 20 bucks, all of a sudden, it's much more of an investment to drink it out socially. And we found that people were coming in with 50 bucks to burn a hole in their pocket, and we could give them something that wasn't something you could find at every liquor store, and it was something that really told a story and that would excite somebody for the price. And it kind of I found out that great wine doesn't have to be expensive. The best wines in the world are the hardest to get because they're delicious, they're cheap, and everybody buys it quickly and you can't make more. So I started working for a bunch of friends that started an import and distributing business where we started to look for these hard to find things and be salespeople that don't care about continuity, just kind of like our new favorite person and our new favorite flavor and our new favorite part of the world to talk about.
That's amazing. That is super cool. So today we are tasting wines that grandma would enjoy, but also wine jerks.
Wine
will also
jerks,
enjoy.
people that, you know, take themselves too seriously and don't understand that wine is first about like enjoying with people and also catching a buzz and not swirling it all night long. And at my holidays, the wine comes out around 11 o'clock and you need something to drink in the morning, afternoon and evening.
I would agree.
Well, so this first one has been banned from my household.
Why?
Because we drink it by the pint, and it's not. Sometimes wine glasses are just too small, especially in the summertime where you're going out on the patio. All right, so this first one is a varietal that strikes fear into the heart of anyone definitely over 40. But this is a grape called Lambrusco. I think this is one of the only grapes where college kids from at least the last 6 or 7 decades have probably thrown this up in college. Sadly enough, it's not this. It was this thing called Riuniti. Riuniti, how do I kind of compare it? It's like people who say, I hate French pastries because I've had a Twinkie. Okay? Riuniti was this brand that escaped from Italy in the 40s and 50s, and it was dark red, it was sugary sweet, it was disgusting wine that you can still find at any dive liquor store.
I kinda wanna try it.
Well, I should have brought one. I mean, it's kind of a rite of passage, yeah. But it's not good. And that is the only experience that anybody in America really had with Lambrusco. If you go to Italy, it's a food group in its own. Like, in Italy, they eat at like 8 or 9 o'clock. It's absurd. I was starving at all times that I was there. But the point is, you get done with work and you go to your local bar and you get a bottle of Lambrusco. It's cheap, it's delicious, it's fruity, it has tons of acid. There can be sweet ones, but there's also dry ones. This is a dry one. It has very little residual sugar. It's a rosé. There are 5 different Lambrusco grapes that are often blended together. This is a red one that could be a red Lambrusco. It could be sweet. There's no such thing as sweet wines. They're just wines that are made sweetly through different ways. This is not that. This is wine that's just been fermented and finished like any other wine. Doesn't go through a complex sparkling process, so it stays cheap. And you focus on the fruit. So when you get done with work, you go get a bottle of this and you just chow on like salty meats and cheeses and drink this like it's a Pilsner beer or something. It's something to chill you out, something that gets food in you, and it's just delicious.
Cheers.
Chin chin.
It is so good. It's like best, to me, this is the best of all worlds. Like if you want something a little fizzy, a little bubbly, and like want something a little bit more like rosé, like not too heavy, not too light. Like it's got so much body.
Yeah, so much fun
so
fruit.
good.
You know, people I think attribute sweet and fruit as the same thing. You can have something that's very fruity without being sweet. I think sweet is residual sugar, something that leaves a residue on your tongue. This has tons of acid, and if it does have a touch of residual sugar, it doesn't come across because your palate is just like ripping through with like razor blades of acid.
It's like tart. It's like rhubarb, really.
No, exactly. It's
rhubarb
almost
type of tart. Yeah.
so much fun. And like I said,
really good.
breakfast drinking for brunch. It makes great little spritzes too. But I like to drink it for breakfast, and this is something that you can be classy.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's gonna find the fun in it.
I would skip mimosas and just have this.
Yeah,
Like, this is so much better. This
there.
has all the fruit. You don't need to add anything to it. Just open the bottle and start having a good time.
Awesome with like spicy, like you know, sausages and stuff like that too, because you know it's got. When you add salt to red fruit tones, the red fruit even comes out more. You know, it's that salty and sweet thing.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. It's got a little bit of strawberry in it too.
And because Lambrusco has such a bad connotation in most of the world, you can find great dry Lambruscos for, I mean, peanuts on the dollar, because again, nobody trusts this name. Sommeliers, however, look at it as an opportunity, especially with like amuse-bouches, to pour a little Lambrusco at the table of dry Lambrusco, and at fancy restaurants, people go with the staff. And this one will give you that little bit of hesitation, like, why are they giving me Lambrusco? I thought this was a nice place. And then you get to
And
taste
then you try
it.
it. You're like, wait, what?
And then you want to just put a straw in it and forget the glassware. And like, Grandma's going to love this one.
I'm really glad that I have no any idea about Lambrusco, so I'm not like scared of it, like, because this is so delicious, and
like,
I don't like sweet things.
And it's not red
okay.
either, you know.
Yeah.
I think
and the
that
color is so beautiful. This like would look so nice on like just any dinner,
totally.
breakfast, brunch tables. Yeah, I love this one. Okay, we have how many?
Well, we've
Five?
got
so
5.
Four more. So should
four
we
more. Yeah,
try the next one?
Yeah, let's go to a white here. We'll do the Lieu D.
So this is a white.
Yes, this is a white here. I'll pour us a glass here, and then I'll start ranting about it. So yeah, this is we're going to talk about 2 of my favorite grapes all across the board. And Chenin Blanc is one of them. Chenin Blanc is a chameleon. I think everywhere Chenin is produced, which is worldwide, there are several French appellations that focus on Chenin Blanc, but then you see it pop all up in South Africa making great Chenin Blancs. West Coast is really planting a lot and showing wonderful things. And I like wines that just speak people, place, and time. Okay, these are little archaeological time capsules, and some can last a long time, but I think each bottle should have an experience, and good wine shouldn't taste the same all the time. You never have the same weather on a vineyard, so therefore the grapes won't taste the same.
That is such an important thing these days. I feel like for people to understand and know as well, because everything's like chain restaurants. Everything tastes the same now. But good food shouldn't always taste the same. It's allowed to evolve or like change with the climate, change with environment, and that is such a great point.
And a lot of those things kind of come in the wine industry from scaling into these huge production wines where there's no way they could make a wine that can get to every Ruby Tuesdays in America off of one little vineyard. Okay, they're buying from hundreds and thousands of vineyards. There's like more of a chemist involved than a winemaker. Okay, there's like a wine watcher just to see it doesn't get too screwed up. These wines that we're drinking today are all really tiny production. They're culty wines. They're wines that are really hoarded by the restaurant community because there's opportunities, I think, to tell the story and to upcharge a lot of them. But they're breaking out into the retail world where we're seeing that you don't have to spend a ton of money. You just have to kind of trust your good retailers to point you to these special things because, like I said, it's weird. It's weird to be a salesperson that's all about passion. There are too many good wines in this world and too many great people to focus on not so great wines and not so great people and not so great farming and not so there's too much great stuff. So anyways, this is Southern California. This is Lieu. It's kind of this like monster sommeliers project named Eric Railsback. I don't know if he was a Gordon Ramsay guy, but I mean, I think he was actually.
Wait, what do you mean by Gordon Ramsay?
I think he was like Gordon Ramsay's sommelier.
Okay,
I mean, these guys all played in the backyards of like giants,
sense.
right? And they had a lot of street cred. They also kind of used that platform to do their own things and kind of break away, obviously, after kind of the prime time. Anyway, so Eric partnered up with a guy named Justin Willett. I've never met Justin personally, but his wines are called Tyler. I'm Tyler. It's no relationship. But these wines in Justin's Tyler world are these incredibly, like, intense Pinot and Chardonnays that are really unlike anything that we've seen from the North Coast, and they're way far down in the southern part of California, kind of out around San Diego. And what makes Lieu so interesting is that it's like an ode to the Loire Valley in France. And so where the money in California is in the Chardonnay, the Pinot Noir, and the Cabernet, right? That's just what pays the bills. That's why these investors are buying Napa by the $1 million an acre. They can't plant anything else than this because the money doesn't bring it back. Now, you go to the rest of California that also has a wine culture that's not so Rodeo Drive meets Pepsi, as far as kind of the money's, transitioning in farmer country. And you get to these old vines and interesting terroir and cool grapes that we don't see set everywhere else. So this is Chenin Blanc from Southern California. Justin Willett, the winemaker, makes these razor blade, minerally driven wines with a very old world tinge. And then one of the best food and wine guys on the West Coast kind of being the brains behind the whole operation. So, this is perfect to take the place of Chardonnay.
Okay.
Chardonnay is polarizing. I love Chardonnay. I didn't always love Chardonnay.
No, I don't either. But I've tasted so many good Chardonnays with you now. So now
you got to find your Chardonnay.
Yeah, you got to find a Chardonnay. And like you were mentioning, trusting your local retail wine guy. It's so hard because everybody has different palate. Like I didn't really drink wine until like I met you. I drank wine, but I didn't care for it. But it just like I couldn't find the right ones that was for me.
Right.
And then now I met you and we were tasting all these wines. I was like, oh, I like wine.
Wine is so intimidating. It's so intimidating.
It's such a big world. Like, where do you start?
Yeah.
I don't know where to start.
And the worst part about it is rarely, especially in the old world, do they put the name of the grape. And so with Chenin Blanc, a lot of times we've had Chenin Blanc, but it's been under the appellation of Vouvray. And we think Vouvray is the grape, but it's actually Chenin Blanc that's grown in this region. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, California, put the grape on there.
Let's drink this.
Yeah, chin chin. Every time I drink Chenin Blanc, I think of the ocean.
It has got that kind of slightly savory, minerally. It's really light. It's not tart. It's like... It sounds weird to say it like this, but like it kind of tastes like diluted ocean a little bit.
It does. It has like kind of it has a salinity to it. It has kind of like an oyster shell thing, especially when it's grown coastally. You see that more. It can be grown more interior where you get a richer style kind of wine with more heat. But in cool climates, especially coastal climates, it retains just minerality. It has a richness kind of in like the mouthfeel that can kind of pose as Chardonnay. But anybody who drinks this won't say, I like buttery Chardonnay, or I like this, I have an opinion on this. They'll just drink it and say, wow, there's a lot going on in here. This is a lot of wine.
This is very delicate.
And I love the nose too. I can smell this wine. I feel that there's like an underwriting herbality to a lot of coastal Chenin Blancs. I've had people, it's weird, and I've had people say, kind of smells like a little cannabis-y. And I was like, well, that's
Cannabis-y?
interesting. And I'm very subjective. When people say something, I have to put my face in it.
Right.
You tell me I smell, teriyaki beef jerky in here. I'll put my nose in and be like, teriyaki beef jerky? I mean, because I guess if you smell it, it's there. But I've heard people say that multiple times, and I've thought, like, what do they mean by that? And
Just like herbaceous.
I think what they mean by it is that there's a green oiliness, I think, that comes. I think it could be seaweed. I think it could be kind of this aromatic greenness.
I get the green oiliness for sure, but to me it's not cannabis.
Yeah. I don't know. I've heard that.
It's more like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had people say seaweed. I've had people, and I can't pinpoint it. Where Sauv Blanc sometimes can get this like cat pissy thing. I love words that people go like, I don't want to drink cat piss, and you get words that kind of you can visualize what they're going for, and I can't visualize Chenin Blanc and its many faces. But this is the vision that I see, that I recognize from South Africa. What they call it Steen there. I drink a lot of good stuff, and a lot of great, Loire Valley Chenin Blancs. And this stands on its own, and it's wonderful for like, I've seen a lot of restaurants use it with oysters. Mm-hmm. It's, amazing oyster pairing. As you can see, it just speaks kind of oyster
it works
right
so
in
well.
there.
It won't overpower one or another. Like one thing I noticed with this wine that I didn't notice with most wines that we've had is that, there's not an English word for this. Like after you drink it, it kind of like comes back, and your mouth is like kind of not sweet, but like I get
like
you.
I get
slight
you saying.
Sweetness. Like in Chinese, it's called hui gan. So like you drink it and it kind of lingers and kind of have a slight sweetness in your palate.
Yeah.
Coats your palate, and most wines don't do this, but this does.
I think again, with the set, I think we're finding the fruit in it.
Yeah.
We're finding the stone fruit underneath this stuff, this like subtle pear and quince kind of notes with still a citrus like lemon overtone to it. And so again, you find this like kind of convergence of stone fruit and citrus with a richness that doesn't come across in a woody aspect. I think a lot of people that don't like Chardonnay, it's not that they don't like the grape, they don't like what someone did to the grape.
Right.
And when people say I like buttery or I don't like buttery, that's not actually the grape doing it.
No.
That's a technique in the winemaking that's bringing out these malolactic kind of characteristics. This doesn't have that. They're focusing on perfectly farmed fruit from a specific terroir, and why are you paying so much or farming great fruit so well if you're going to just throw it on a bunch of like chemistry or wood to change all of it? If you love your fruit, you want to say, I've got cooler fruit than you, or I've got different fruit than you. And when we see it in a more bare bones like this set, we're going to kind of just look for the fruit and the fun.
This is very clean, and I like everything. I think I usually am more a purist. I want to see the fruit. I want to see the fruit shine. I want to see the ingredients shine instead of, doing all these crazy things like put in big barrels and changing what it's supposed to be.
And I want to get drunk. And like wines that see a lot of manipulations, whether they're good manipulations or, appropriate or, not helping what my palate wants. I want to talk. I want to have a good time. And like, especially with family, or I'm dealing with, the relative that I really don't want to hear quite as much, and then I drink even faster. But no, these are fun wines, and this is nerdy, super sommelier driven thing that doesn't have to be so snotty. It's just delicious.
And I think it'll give you a lot of things to think about when you're drinking this, so you can kind of tune out the other noises.
Yes, exactly.
So
Just
like,
put your nose in this.
Just have a glass of wine, keep thinking about it, find all the flavors in it, and have a great glass of wine.
All right.
Let's move on to the next one, which is the lightning bolt.
Yeah, the lightning bolt. My favorite. This is so cool.
We're excited. I don't know if I like their new label though.
I don't as much.
It stands out.
No,
it definitely stands out, but
they used to have a label that
stands
was
out on the shelf.
Covered in like guitar cables hooked up to pedals, and me being a guitar player, I instantly thought it was cool, and it really embodied the idea of electricity to me, and also being super cocky. So Elektrisch is from a vineyard, but it's not marketed as like a vineyard wine. Instead, this is a house label from the ultra cool kids of German importing, an importer called Von Boden out of Brooklyn. Okay, and Von Boden, they run the show when it comes to like the connection of really old school Riesling and really like new school Riesling, and they're helping kind of bring the spotlight back on probably the most misunderstood grape in the history of American consumption, maybe world consumption. And what makes this even funnier is that this comes from the birthplace of the fall of Riesling.
What?
Okay, yeah, I'll try to explain this.
Explain.
All right. So when America was just crushing white Zinfandel and Riuniti Lambrusco, and even after the Riuniti thing, like in the 70s and 80s, there was a thing called white Zinfandel. And what was this? Like, it was completely overcropped Zinfandel that they had no purpose for, that they didn't know what to do with, that they'd say, hey, oh, if we just kind of crush this with a bunch of sugar in it, and it'll be pink and super sweet, and people are going to love this. And, well, they did, kind of to our, hindsight's 2020, to our embarrassment, right? And they just drank the crap out of it. And the rest of the world took notice to America's dumbass palate, and they said, I've got some ideas. And we had Beaujolais step in with Beaujolais Nouveau. Let's buy this all before Thanksgiving so you can have this soda poppy thing. Now, that's not what Beaujolais is in the world.
Yeah.
They did it because they had all this fruit that nobody wanted.
Okay.
In that new Beaujolais and that new the Rheinhessen. And how do they get rid of it? They invented a thing called Liebfraumilch, mother's milk, okay? Grandma drinking big 1.5 liters of blue bottled stuff with a nun on it. It was like maybe 4% alcohol, had cups and cups of sugar, white sugar dumped into it, enough sulfur to make raisins good until, for another 2,000 years. And Riesling was a big thing like that. It was all over. People chugged this stuff for 20 years until kind of everyone all at once said, no more. Man, no way. No more. We've had our college. We've had the sweet stuff. This stuff makes you feel horrible. Now, it wasn't the Riesling's fault, okay? The Riesling is not a sweet. Riesling is not sweet. Riesling is not sweet. It can be made sweetly, okay? Like the Lambrusco thing. It's just a grape. When yeast is allowed to get at sugar, whether it's a beer or whatnot, the yeast wants to eat everything until that yeast is so fat, it goes to sleep and can't eat anymore. That's one way of stopping fermentation. Has to be tons of sugar in there. The other way is killing the yeast off. And that's where the term sulfur gets a bad rap, okay? Sulfur destroys fermentation and stops the process and allows people to dump sugar in it, allows it to keep wine that's red for maybe 2 days before turning brown. It keeps it red. I mean, and sulfur is not a bad thing. All wines have sulfur in them. You cannot get a wine that is sulfur free because if there's alcohol. Yes. In the chemistry of fermentation, there's sulfur. So sulfur is not a problem here, but in Riesling it was. They put so much sulfur and sugar and sold it so cheap and in this Liebfraumilch idea that the world said, I don't like sweet wines, or I don't like that stuff that I got a headache in college. My grandma drinks that stuff. And then all of a sudden no one drank Riesling anymore. So in comes Von Boden. And is starting to work with kind of the next generation of really traditional families in these famous regions of Germany that are putting the agriculture back on the map, that are re-releasing what the Germans have always held sacred and consumed most of it themselves, and spread it out over the United States. And so in order to get people into this, they had to have the drug dealer wine. That's the first taste is free. No one's going to buy a $40, $50 bottle of Baller, not sweet Riesling because no one knows that it's not sweet and no one has trust to spend more than $5 or $10 on a bottle of Riesling. So, and also the winemakers in Germany had really old looking labels that you couldn't read half the words on them. Their kind of predicate system of quality wine labeling is confusing that nobody really understands.
They really need to dumb it down for average consumers.
Yeah, and so there was no way back in, and so they said, hey, they went to this vineyard Zeehof that is from this Rheinhessen region, as von Boden called it, referred to as the armpit of the Riesling world from like an American perspective. However, this is where one of the most famous winemakers in all of Germany is making wine, so it has this renaissance. They went to Zeehof and said, hey, you make amazing estate wine. It's pretty reasonably priced, but if we could do something to get for people to find the fruit, to find the acid, to find the terroir, that wouldn't be $30 on the shelf. They need something that they won't connect with Riesling or with the part of Riesling that they remembered and they hated. So hence come crazy label that, says Riesling so small on there, right? Elektrisch. Why Elektrisch? Because I think, as von Boden would put it, Riesling's all about electricity. It's all about this like wild acids, about complete like minerals, whether it be the slate of the Mosel Valley or in this case, tons of calcium and limestone in the soils. The other thing that von Boden kind of championed was natural wines in Germany, meaning, if they were sweet, they were kind of naturally sweet, and most of them being slightly off-dry or bone-dry. And Elektrisch was the first thing that kind of, you pour this to every person and you didn't tell them it was Riesling and you say, do you love this? And everyone go, I love this, you know?
The best. Ugh, I love the smell of it. It's got like a really kind of unique fruit flavor going on. Like it's got like more ripe like fruit.
I get great white shark bites from my lunch snacks as a child.
Yeah, okay, yes. So I was like, it smells a little bit artificial. I was gonna say a little gummy, like a little like rubbery,
a little
like
Vaseline, but
like not in a bad way.
No, not in a bad way. And
like those, I'm always afraid to say those words.
No,
because
let's
they
say those
sound
bad words.
Like bad words.
That makes me more excited to be like, put my nose in and be like, let's smell this stuff. But you said it's like a glycerol property, and that really comes from the limestone, and it's just got so much fruit. It's so fun to drink. And I impress upon people when I drink with them that like wine doesn't have to be an austere experience, okay? It doesn't have to be this thing that I don't drink white wines because they're too dainty, or like this isn't dry enough for me. I pour this for people and they'll go, nope, too sweet. Because you know what, I said Riesling first, and I'll say Riesling and they'll try this. They will hate it before they try it.
Because they know it's Riesling.
Your brain tastes before your mouth does, okay? So it's best to like not talk over this.
It's like that one event we did. I made all the Taiwanese like braised dishes with like tripe and like tofu and seaweed and like piggy ear and all that stuff. And I went out and explained it to the guests after they already started eating. Half of them like stopped their chopsticks.
Yeah.
They're just like,
we blew it. It
was good.
It was all timing.
I know.
No,
I know. I shouldn't have said anything, but at the same time,
I have to trick
I felt like I should know. They should know, and I don't know.
I have to trick people all the time, and I have to push people into Riesling. And whenever I do an event, it's I always bring Riesling because when I'm standing there and have to talk wine for 3 hours, I want to drink something fun,
something tasty,
and I think all you have to have is a great experience with something that unlocks your ability to take a chance. If you never have that first, if someone doesn't grab you and say, drink this stuff, or like people come to my tables and they'll be like, oh, I'll try your Cabernet and your Barolo. And I go, you're not trying the Cabernet or the Barolo unless you try the Riesling. And they'll go, this is like being held hostage here to drink Riesling. And you are, by me.
And you're going to like it.
You're going to like it. And like I said, you find the fruit so easy. And it's so fun. This and salt, when I die, I'm going to drink off-dry Riesling and a bucket of fried chicken. Okay? And that's going to be my final meal. KFC and a glass, and I'll be hedonistic. And if, like, the cancer doesn't kill me, then the grease will. But Riesling can cut grease. It can handle heavy weighted things. Foie gras, something like that. That's so
rich and so creamy.
Riesling can just rip that right off your palate and allow you to taste it again, and we forget that. And we talked about Lambrusco and breakfast drinking, like no problem at 11 a.m. Like this will not slow me down, and I won't feel guilty.
Yeah.
The other thing is like these dry Rieslings, they're usually from cool climates. A lot of the low alcohol in Riesling was because they stopped the fermentation at like 4%, leaving all this extra residual sugar and not fermented. Yeah. And then they back sweetened it. With these like organic vineyards, with like the vines suffer here, and you'll be lucky even with like natural Rieslings to be bone dry and still at like 10 or 11% because they don't have the potential sugars in the grape to get up to those higher alcohols, to have residual sugar left over. Yeah. So you get something that when it's stripped of all the fluff and put into stainless steel and usually not wooden barrels, you get something that's just Elektrisch.
And during holidays, all the food is always so heavy.
So heavy.
And like these 3 that we started with are all like super great.
Yeah.
With, like just cutting the fat.
Yeah. Salty cheeses, blue cheeses. I love this with spicy foods. I mean, we found out in a lot of our pairing, like Riesling really plays well with the acid to basic kind of thing. If you eat peanuts.
Yeah.
I never knew how hard it was to pair wine with nuts, and I didn't think it was, but we found that basic foods need acid on overdrive to really work. And, that's kind of one of the fun things we found, peanut butter and
Riesling. Peanut butter and
Riesling, why not?
It's so good. So great.
If I had my grandma here, she would say, oh, I like this. It's kind of sweet. And again, not sweet.
But not sweet.
They mean fruity.
Yeah.
And not residual.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do a red?
Yes, let's
do
a red.
the boring label over there. The old.
Which one's boring?
Yeah, the other boring one.
The other boring. How is that one boring?
It's not boring. It just looks like a little Italian town. It looks like probably where Giordano is from, the Piedmont. Piedmont. So.
The Piedmont guy.
Yes, I am heavily related to a very famous Piemontese importer named Weston Horde, and otherwise known as the Piedmont guy. I bought wines from the Piedmont guy for years. I mean, he taught me everything I know about the Piedmont, and then started working for him in a couple different capacities. And this was, while we talked about drug dealer wine, with the Elektrisch, getting people to kind of understand the grape first before we get into what happens. This has been kind of the gateway drug to a world of a grape called Nebbiolo. Again, in regions of Europe, Italy, France, rarely do you find the varietal on the label. You get the legal region where that varietal is traditionally grown, and it'll say Barolo. There's no Barolo grape. It's the Nebbiolo grape grown in the Barolo region, and that within that region, the government of Italy has put rules on it. So call it Barolo. It has to be from this area. It has to have this much time in wood, this much time in bottle. That's fine. And they get kind of a way to get apples to apples to apples conversation between vineyards that are making this traditional styling of wine. Like Chardonnay, people who try Nebbiolo try one of these regional, mainly one of the kind of the core to Barolo and Barbaresco, and they see the grape with layers and layers of winemaking on top of it, mainly new wood. And the amount of wood that Nebbiolo sees and the time that it has to stay in barrel makes it one of the most austere wines when it's young. Nebbiolo in itself is kind of like Pinot Noir. It's like a thin-skinned, a light-skinned grape, but the grape itself has like a lot of tannin in it.
Okay.
The skins do. And that can give good grippy side of your tongue kind of structure, sandpaper to your red wine. Now you put it in a barrel for 2.5 years, and it really pulls a lot of this new woody thing in it. And a lot of these famous Barolos traditionally need years of aging, okay, which makes the price go up. And like the famous regions of every part of the world, it's a small region where a lot of famous wine is made, but not that much famous wine is made. And so every year that it becomes more and more popular, that the vineyards get more esteemed, it becomes more expensive. So now we get to a place where to buy in on Nebbiolo, you're spending 40 or 50 bucks to 80 bucks to not know if you like it.
Yeah.
Or to not know if you just don't like the rules that Nebbiolo is under to be $80 Nebbiolo. So this wine is from a really, really famous family called Giordano. Giordano are old family from a region in the Piedmont. So we're talking northwest Italy, kind of butted up on Switzerland and France, okay? A very alpine kind of region that kind of comes down in elevation. But the grape that it is most famous for is the grape called Nebbiolo. They grow white grapes there as well, but never got the international esteem that like Bordeaux, Burgundy have these names that ring out. So this is a family that lives, right outside the town of Barbaresco, one of these two major kind of poles of this grape Nebbiolo. And they make very expensive, very fine Nebbiolo with rules. You can't taste Nebbiolo when the rules are put on top of it, okay? You lose the Nebbiolo and you start comparing it to Cabernet or these big heavy wines because of the way it affects your mouth. And that's not the conversation that I want to have with Nebbiolo. I want it to be a lean...
Like by the color, it looks really light.
Yeah, and even
compared
like,
to other red wines. I don't think I've ever had Nebbiolo before.
You probably have, but it's just been you have hung out with Weston. He pours old Nebbiolos from the 80s. It's an incredibly ageable grape. And as it ages, it becomes more of this orange bricky color, right? Oh. And it gets... It changes, it develops, but we never get to see like the raw, naked Nebbiolo without any rules done to it. And so, this could be considered new school, but in fact, it's really old school, where this is kind of like the field blend, the pitcher wine. When you go to Italy, they just give you pitchers of wine on the table, and you think it's water, and then you pour it, like, oh, that's red. Shoot. And, this is that, where this is a co-ferment of... It varies from 80 to 90% Nebbiolo that goes into stainless steel fermentation, okay? So no wood, okay? And then it's co-fermented. That means not blent, but the grapes are all smashed together of 20% to 10% white wine called Arnase. People, that's really whack. Why would you put white wine in red wine? They've done it for ages, and they just don't tell you about it in multiple different famous wine growing regions in the world. If you look at the Rhone Valley, they'll put Viognier and Syrah, and they'll call it a regional appellation, and we'll go with it. We don't know that they're doing it. Here we know it, and the white wine doesn't affect this, as far as I'm concerned on palate. What I look for in Nebbiolo is this, like, cranberry, spice, leather belt, penny purse, grandma's bathroom, potpourri.
Sounds perfect for holidays.
It does. I mean, it does have a gingerbready house kind of feel, or
like my first sniff was a lot of kind of strawberry candy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Type of scent going on.
It's very perfumey. I mean, Nebbiolo is one of these grapes that
and
you
then
can...
it gets floral.
Yeah, you can lose yourself in the glass. And a lot of it takes a lot of working. When you see the wood, it takes breathing, decanting, aerating. This doesn't. We get right down to what Nebbiolo is all about. So that's something that kind of drinks like Pinot Noir. Different kind of flavor profile. It's not black cherries. We fall, like you said, more on this thyme and strawberries, herbs de Provence meets potpourri, leather without astringency.
Yeah, I honestly expected a lot more tannin, the way you described it.
The tannin is lean, it's ingrained. It works really well with food. Where I think Pinot Noir can get stepped on a lot as far as pairings. I think the flavors are a little too delicate, or else they're just a little too clunky, out of balance. This works, amazing with fat because it has acid and it has deep flavors without it being heavy. Again, I think too often we try to pair things with power meets power.
Right.
And I think acid is what everything needs to pair around. When you have the intermezzos at fancy restaurants and they bring you a little spoonful of sherbet or something, and just lemon lime, something that just shocks your palate to be awake again. I like wines that keep that verve and keep that acid intact, where I want to drink it. I don't have to savor this for a lot, but I think it plays really well with kind of like aperitivi, you know, like that 4 o'clock eating where you got olives and cheeses and
like I just want a charcuterie board and a glass of
that.
this.
Boom, you're
Perfect.
good. Exactly.
And we're done. It's not. Sometimes there are wines that we've tasted are like really super flavorful, great, but like I want to drink it on its own. It's not really like a wine I want to drink with food, but this is a great wine to drink it with food because it's got all the things to complement the food.
Yeah, and I mean, and like I said, it's a fun wine. If you bring into a Barolo to a holiday party, yeah, you'll be both sides. You'll be angry that everyone drank it and that most people didn't like it or just didn't understand it, you know. And we're like, this is really good. I'm supposed to say this is really good because I know this is really expensive, but you're like looking at them going, they're not connecting with this. And the sad thing about that is, if everyone really appreciates it, it's super cool to give someone that, like, you know, Rolls Royce experience where you go, this is Barolo. I love Barolo. I love Barbaresco. I'm not talking down to it. But I have a lot more fun, like, again, getting people to go, I really like this, and not hoping that half of them like it. Sometimes I bring a bottle that I think everyone's going to hate so I can drink most of it. That's greedy.
That's a great strategy, actually. I should learn. I need to learn from that.
But, you know, I also kind of, as the wine guy, feel like a jerk when I'm just like, I brought something that, like, everyone's pretending that they like it because they're drinking it with me. When I'm just like, wow.
You don't have to like it.
It's not delicious. You know, this is delicious, and that's kind of the theme. Like, is this delicious? Like, you shouldn't have to think too hard about if something is delicious or it's not. I can wax poetic. You could feed me anything, and I'll, like, think about it long enough till I like it. But, like, I like just that first impression to be, this is fun, you know?
This is good. I find just honestly sometimes red wine to be too much, like overpowering to a lot of things. And when I'm already eating heavy food, I really don't want to drink red wine.
It's just a lot on a lot.
Yeah, but this works. This is like on the lighter side of the red. So like, I feel like if I'm eating food, I'd still be happy to have a glass of this and just kind of chill and hang out. And
it's fine, like I said, for the Pinot Noir drinker, that I think we fall back on grape varietals that we just feel like people won't hate, or that we had somewhat of a success before. And especially when you're drinking with company, there's this idea with wine that, like, it has to be saved. Like, if I give a bottle to somebody, like, and it's at, like, a party, like, at someone's house, like, I hope we drink it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, I mean, there are wines like, save this for your kids, you know? I mean, but that's, I might die tomorrow, and I'd rather taste this stuff today. And so, again, that's where the price thing, you know, really matters. That, like, people are afraid to open up wines that are too expensive, and they
feel like they have to save it.
They end up saving it past the point it tastes good.
Yes.
I see people showing me, look, I got this awesome Zinfandel from 1993, and I'm like, that's shot. You should have drank that 20 years ago, and that's sad too.
That's my parents, honestly.
Yeah, it's time to drink wine. Wine, we can buy more of it if we love it, and then save it. But for the first taste, should be free. As a guideline, these are all things that you could find. The highest, most expensive wine, if you were to find it at a retail store, would be $30.
Oh.
And that's the next one. And all these other ones, 25 or under.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So again, wines, I don't think you can get much wine that's not made by robots for under $15. I mean, you can go to other countries where there's some exchange rate stuff, but you know, when you get into that 20 to 25 realm of spending on wine, you can find a lot of stuff that's amazing fine, and you can find a lot of absolute garbage that you spent way too much on that should have been a $5 bottle of wine that the marketing company made it be a $25 bottle of wine. And that's really disappointing as a consumer. I hate being ripped off. I hate, like, guessing wrong with wine, and I mean with anything. With food, I'm less worried about it for some reason. But with wine, I feel like I'll just go to a restaurant and be like, let's do it. You work here. What should we eat? You know, just feed me. I'll tell you when I'm full, and we'll stop. With wine, I feel like people open up a wine list, and it's just terrifying. I feel staff at restaurants are usually undereducated.
For sure.
And you go to big liquor stores, and there's 5,000 bottles.
Right. It's very intimidating. Just standing in front of the wall, you're like,
And people buy the picture, honestly.
I do.
That's another thing. Like, people who have, like, and I kind of knocked the pictures on these. Oh, someone's going to kill me about that. When I was at the wine shop, people would come in, and my biggest, like, meme, like, I'd make fun of them behind their back, they'd come in and be like, Tyler, I was downtown Minneapolis, and I had this awesome, the best bottle of wine I ever had. It was from France. It was at this restaurant. It had a white label, and it had cursive writing on it, and it was like Chateau something. I'd be like, okay, so now there's only 10,000 bottles for me to, like, weed through to try to figure out what you're talking about. And, I mean, again, anybody who doesn't have an ego will connect a drinker with their experience. And, I mean, you've seen there could be market work done up and down, and they'll never make us all happy with it. But I do believe that if you drink a wine, if you have a beer, I'm not going to remember if I haven't had a couple glasses or a couple beers. Like, the next morning, I remember, like, the best plate, the best, or the most shocking drink I had. And it might not be, like, the one I actually liked.
Yeah.
And if you don't put a decent label on it that can guide somebody towards a general direction, they're not helping themselves, so they're not helping us as drinkers either. So make it easier. But this doesn't make it too easy, but this looks like a Piedmont town.
Honestly, I think it's
It looks like Barbaresco.
I don't see
castle there.
I don't see a lot of labels that look like this. To be honest,
they've actually upgraded this a little bit since the last vintage. So I take it back, Giordano. You guys really turned it up a notch on this.
No, I honestly I oftentimes go to liquor stores just to look at labels because that's one of my interests. I love graphic design, so I just go in and look at all the labels and try to pick them out. And I really don't see a lot of labels that look like this. So I think it's a different style. It works.
Yeah. It's definitely doesn't look like it's straight out of Italy, even though it's a picture of Italy.
It's cute.
It's cute. All right, let's do Lucius.
Lucius.
I've loved wines more after meeting the winemaker, and I've hated wines more after meeting the winemaker.
Makes sense.
It's a fine line to walk. This is my favorite story. One of my favorite people to talk about.
Tell me the story.
Well, you know Andrew Latta.
I don't.
He was like carrying like food to us a couple times. I think.
I know.
He is like one of my favorite people to champion in the whole. We represent a lot of amazing winemakers. I'm close friends with a lot of them, but Andrew to me is like the underdog, the Rocky story, the person I want to like champion the most because I think he's just been done dirty. Andrew, millions of people have had Andrew's wines. Wine Spectator, wine enthusiasts have scored Andrew's wines to the 100-point level. He made the first 100-point wine that Washington ever had.
What? Wait, you never told me that.
Oh, yeah, but he didn't get any credit for it because he was the workhorse, the winemaker behind a not favorite person of mine. He had great marketing, and he had Andrew. And he had a vision that Washington, Columbia Valley, and Walla Walla could stand up to the rest of the West Coast when it came to making wine. I'll give him that. And he had one of the smartest young winemakers working for him. The problem with this cat is he made great wines, and they were the right price, and they were marketed beautifully, and they tasted great, and they showed up on the scene, and they blew up. And as a buyer, I bought them. As a restaurant person, I bought them. I mean, like, I totally supported it. I never knew Andrew. I thought the guys whose name was on the label was the guy making all the wines. I went to meet this cat up at he showed up in town. He had a wine tasting at this, like, punk rock club. And I met him, and I was like, this guy is the biggest jerk I've ever met in my whole life. Like, I couldn't even believe it. I went back to my store, and I vowed never buy another bottle of this person's wine, just because I saw how he was talking to people and treating people. And no matter how much I love the wine, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna recommend something to my clients, my customers, my friends that like has Darth Vader running the ship. Okay, so Andrew every year brought these small vineyards, kind of in central Washington and Walla Walla, to the table and started making terroir-driven wines, and every year that they got press, Darth Vader would say, make me more, make me more, make me more. Scale, 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 scale. And Andrew did. And I mean, it's hard to make great wine wherever. It's hard to make really small amounts of wine. I would say it's really, really hard to make really good small production wine and then scale it to be a TGI Friday style wine.
It's a completely different method and procedure. Everything's changed. Everything's completely different.
And Andrew did this for this cat for almost a decade or so. And anyways, long story short, they parted ways. Dude couldn't do what he'd been producing the whole time, so he sold the brand. A lot of it was left with nothing. Okay? And he restarted his world with this thing called Kind Stranger, which is just killer kind of his intro line. And he started off with the Lotta wines, which are his kind of high-end wines. And just recently, maybe, he's been making this for a couple years, but as far as my experience has only been in the last year that he's kind of released this outside of Seattle, kind of Washington area, is this Lucius line. The one cool thing that I will give to like the industry is when this bad stuff happened to Andrew, I don't really buy the point system. I mean, like, whatever. What makes a 90-point wine and an 89-point wine, other than our perspective of it being, like, way worse for 1 point?
For 1 point.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, I don't buy into that. But what the press did do is they kind of followed Andrew because they knew who was the genius behind this stuff.
Yeah.
And they kind of, when he did great things in his new project, they recognized him,
That's awesome.
and so like I'm so glad that as a small producer, he's getting big time like press and street cred and points from very known publications. But this Lucius wine is quote unquote his experimental wine. This is him saying experimental, okay? Which when someone says experimental wine to me, I just get scared shitless. Because that usually means like I got these cool grapes and I don't really know how to make this wine. I'm gonna taste good now and hopefully we can do this again if it's good or something totally different if it's bad. But with Andrew's experience, it wasn't gonna be experimental. It was gonna be like, I think I got something up my sleeve I've been working on for a while.
This is not something customers are used to.
Not really.
I think experimenting on customers if they can accept it versus experimenting making the wine.
And maybe it's like experimenting with his brand or with with his background, push it.
Yeah.
And so Lucius, the thing with this stuff is, I mean, it's 2 reds, 2 whites made out of grapes that we forget being part of the zeitgeist of West Coast winemaking. But the other thing is that the reds and the Lucius wines are this thing called carbonic fermentation. Which is a big hipster thing right now. Like every hippie out in California, and I'm not talking bad to hippies. I'm a huge deadhead, so I can say that with class. Is making carbonic wines, and carbonic fermentation means that after you're harvesting the grapes, you're throwing them in a tank, whole clusters, like full. You're not pressing the juice off. You're throwing the actual berries into a container, and you're sealing it off from outside oxygen. The oxygen inside the tank will start converting and fermenting and turning into CO2, okay? The only sugar source is within this fruit, okay? So the fermentation is happening in the berry and it explodes, kind of, the berry, okay? By this happening, and then after it's kind of sat, in this case, for like maybe another 20 days, macerating, pulling color out of the grape, it's pressed off lightly. What this carbonic thing has done currently and in the past, it brings a playfulness, kind of a bubblegummy, kind of fruity forwardness in the wines that in some contexts plays really well. Mm-hmm. In some contexts is new and makes really seriously source fruit wines fun and super drinkable, bistro-like. Mm-hmm. But again, it's a thin line between like classy, funny, and stupid.
Right.
And I don't think anyone knows where that is, other than that there's too much carbonic wine in the market right now, and I've tasted a lot of stupid ones. Stupid meaning that like, again, it seemed experimental. Like they didn't know exactly where this was going, and like, is the grape still there? Did this fruity, fun fermentation take away from speaking the grape?
Directly to the grape.
Yeah, and so when Lotta told me that he made some carbonic wines, my eyes kind of rolled into the back of my head and tried not to show him, you know. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And I tasted them, and I was just like, he did it. He did it again. Like, he did it again. Like,
little fireworks everywhere.
he took this really serious Syrah fruit, okay? And Washington has kind of reinvented Syrah on the West Coast. And he took this fruit that he only in the past made into the first 100-point wine that he made for Darth Vader, we'll call him, okay?
Yay!
And the style of Darth Vader was these, like, just fruit over monstrous, just big wine, delicious and opulent. And he put this vineyard on the map of making this monster wine. So this is the first time he's gotten back into this vineyard since working for the Empire. And he decided that he's not going to like retrace his footsteps, that he's going to do something completely different. So the fact that he's using this super serious fruit, making it playful and taking a chance to like, why would you silly up the last word of something, you know? Yeah. And so again, like to me, like the math was just like, oh, this just sounds like a whole lot of risks being taken here. And then when I tried it, I was just like, nope, this is it. This is the coolest thing. So how I view it is that there's a balance between like fruit, acid, but the finish is all big time wine. Like it is very long finishing, and what I taste 20 seconds after I drink it is very different from like the first 20 seconds, which makes me go, man, I can drink this fast. But then I sit back and I go, this is some serious wine.
It's still coming.
It's still, I mean, like there's something here
still happening.
There's something that he's tricking us with. And yeah.
So this is a Syrah.
This is Syrah, which is a grape that everyone should love, but it's just like a lot. It's so much. It's a ton of wine with still like. You see that now my tongue's just like buzzing with.
Yeah, it's like tannin, lots of tartness and.
Not wood tannin.
No.
Actually, this does see some wood. This sees about 20 months in French.
Yeah,
but it's like, not about the wood.
The wood hits you in the beginning.
Yeah.
But the tannin that comes after is from the wine.
Oh, and it smells just. I mean, again, you get this like violets, flowery, blackberry, peppery. Balsamic, even almost a touch, not in like an acid way, but just in like a floral power way.
It's got like a slight bitterness to it that is actually very enjoyable.
It balances
everything out.
And when we see so much carbonic people making carbonic wines right now, I can smell it in the winemaking.
Really?
I can just smell it. I view, for saying this is a broad brush paint stroke, but I view a lot of carbonic wines retain this strange, like, have you ever poured like a packet of like NutraSweet Kool-Aid into a pitcher?
No.
And had
I never had Kool-Aid.
You never had
Kool-Aid? Oh, I had Kool-Aid once in a dive bar.
Well, the really low grade Kool-Aid,
with
okay?
Everclear.
Yeah, so they dump it in the stuff that you don't add the sugar to, and like it puffs up this like cloud of thing, and
like
it gets it like caked in your nose or in the back of your throat. That sounded really bad. I'm not snorting NutraSweet here. Yeah, exactly. No, but like it gives you this like bubble gummy back of the nose, back of the throat powder thing, and I don't find it in this. I don't get it in this, and that's what, when I first had it, I was like, wow. And then when I tasted the finish of it, I was like, oh, fun and fruit up front, and then it was just like, ooh, man, that's got a lot under the hood. And I look, and the price that he's selling this now, the one that he made that was like, you know, Rodeo Drive, I mean, it was an expensive bottle of wine, like, you know, $60, $80 back in the day.
Wow.
It was the top thing that this guy made. This is the $30. This is the high end retail. Would be like $30 if you were to find it. It's small production. It got huge scores, which is like, again, I don't care about scores, but I'm glad that they're scoring something. Here's what's good about scores. It gives people confidence if it's a legitimate score, okay? I mean, it could be like scored 110 points by the Bread Baking Society of San Francisco, and they put that on the label.
They had good yeast.
And yeah, and people would not read it and go, 110 points? Are you serious? Where did they get that extra 10? It must be good. But what points do is if it's from a person that has kind of a palate and you kind of like what they like, then if you see a Robert Parker or a an enthusiast score, a James Suckling score, it gives you confidence to spend that extra $30 on something that you got no good help in the aisles of a liquor store and you're just trying to find something. That might be your only way of having the confidence to not go to the old reliable. So like scores are a good thing. I just think there's an ad on the next page that sometimes looks like it paid for that 91 point on the page before it. And that's where I kind of separate myself from the press. But I think this is so fun. And like I said, Syrah is this lost grape that, like Chenin Blanc, it speaks to where it's grown. It can be made come with a lot of tricks and bells and whistles, or else it can be made really purely and simple. And we lost all like the reasonably priced Syrah on the West Coast. They yanked it up to plant more Cabernet and Pinot in California because Syrah didn't pay the bills. And in Washington, they've come out with really good ones. But again, you're paying like $40-$50 for a good Washington Syrah, and that's too much for me. It's too much for my friends.
Too much for grandma.
Too much for me to pay for my friends to drink. I mean, that is really what it comes down to. Too much for grandma to drink and not like it. But this is something that I think grandma will find the fruit. We'll find that blackberry up front, and then you pair this with hearty dishes for your actual like main course, for stews, for steaks, for all that stuff. It won't blow out Thanksgiving style fare. Cabernet will. Syrah kind of can hang back there in that cranberry spice, blackberry fruit puree kind of world.
And it's still light. Mm-hmm. Like it's not so like heavily bodied as I was kind of expecting. Dark. It looks so dark. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be really a lot, but it's not. It's still like light in the body for drinking, like heavier than everything else we've had today for sure. But it's still very like crushable is the wrong word. You don't want to crush it. But you
work through it. I mean, it's not something. It's something you're going to drink and not just look at. And again, for that bottle of wine that you're willing to spend a little extra for like the finale of your day of drinking, this holds up. If you had 3 bottles of wine before it, you'd still taste this. But it's not daunting. It's not austere, and we're supporting someone that I just respect so much. Not as a winemaker, as a person. Like Andrew donates so much to charitable causes in Seattle, and like his line, kind stranger. He is the person that we have all met before, I think, in the glass. But a few of us have actually met him, and when you do meet him, you're like, this is the kind stranger, dude.
He was so nice and just so like chill too. It's like there's no I don't know how to say it. Just like very there's no ego. Yeah. There's no ego behind him. And like, I love all of his wine. I actually literally just bought a bottle of Lucius, but the white. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I forgot which one.
He does Albarino and a Viognier. Again, kind of in this conversation of weird-ass grapes that you wouldn't expect. Probably lends to his experimental quotations. But the wines are just so smartly made that like I called him up after trying this and was just like, I feel like sometimes I don't appreciate great wine because I have to taste so much of it that sometimes like if my mood's not right, I'll just like dismiss something or not pay attention at the right time, and I'll have to re-find it later. Rarely do I get something that just slaps me and I go, I don't know what the price is of this, but this is great. And then when I talk to the owners and I find out that it's $20 less than like I thought it was going to be, well, that doesn't happen too much, and I love it when somebody knows the game. He really understands, again, like how do you get consumed? Not by making $150 bottles of wine. No. You don't get consumed. And by doing this and doing it so well, we'll tell the story, and we'll bring more people in. And every time he's visited us, he's gone with me wherever I take him, and he's been so gracious, and he's like really absorbed like the people that are consuming his wine, and has never had a pretentious heartbeat in his body. And it makes me just want to say like everybody needs to drink this because it's awesome wine with street cred. I mean, all the text sheet, but I'm supporting someone who's like already been down, and now this is how he's reinvented himself. Like you don't find people to do it this well. To come out. Anyways, good job, Andrew. Great job with your grandfather's name, Lucius.
Got it. I was wondering why it's called Lucius.
From the story I remember him, and I don't remember it exactly, it was that his grandfather was a blacksmith. Great-grandfather, maybe, was a blacksmith. And it was at a time where, like, blacksmithing wasn't needed anymore, and he immediately turned as, like, an older adult into a machinist to, like, go into the Industrial Revolution. And he did it so seamlessly that it didn't take a generation. It didn't take somebody, that he had to do it in the middle of his life, completely switch directions. And I guess that's kind of what Andrew had to do, you know, and pulling back from, he's not the first person in his family who's had to, like, try something new and do it fast and get comfortable and figure it out, do it the right way, you know? So yeah, that's the story I got. So I don't know how much of that's paraphrased.
Andrew can comment below.
Call him and ask him, but I think it's pretty close.
It's awesome. I really do love his wines.
I know.
It's so good.
The bottles are, and the story behind the wine, I think, is almost as important as what's in it.
Yes, 100%. Like, I want to support a good winemaker versus a winemaker who doesn't care about the rest of us and is just trying to make money, right? Like, I think consuming food, especially because we eat and drink every day, it's about your vote of who you support, like who you think is a good human, is doing good in the world, and you want to support the people who are doing good in the world.
The confidence of, like, it's us saying, keep going that direction.
Yes,
like,
we believe what you believe in, keep going, we're here to support you.
Yeah,
and I think that's really important thing to do.
I agree. And for people that aren't wine nerds, I can tell you everything that Syrah is, and you're gonna remember the story that I told you. Nothing. It's not. Syrah was like, we talked about Syrah for like 10 seconds, and then the rest of the story gives so much context to the wine. And at a table, that's the story that I want to tell. And I'll be like, if you have Syrah from the Northern Rhone, it's gonna be that's stupid wine stuff. That's for reading. This is for storytelling.
I'll drink a glass of wine, but I don't want to be like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? It makes me feel dumb. Like, I could learn, but, like, I'm more into the flavor, more into the story behind the person who makes it.
One person with a bad wine attitude can intimidate an entire dinner table into not talking about the drink. I've stopped doing a lot of wine experiences that are from really famous places. Like, I don't like to do Bordeaux tastings because you'll get 90% of the people showing up wanting to learn, wanting to experience. Like, this is a chance for me to taste this stuff that I've heard about. But you'll have one or two people show up that want to talk aloud about what's good and tell everybody what they should like and what they shouldn't like. And immediately I see all the questions that people have disappear. And everyone just tries to, like, look at a price list and look at their glass, and I see complete confusion. And I look at the person that started talking loud, and I just want to find a reason to, like, escort them out of the room. You know, like, sir, you drank, sorry, you're cut off. You've had one too many. You must have been drinking vodka before this. I mean, like, I don't know, but, like, I hate that about wine, because that's why wine is not where it needs to be for the next generation. Because it's too expensive, and we don't have enough people, like, wanting to bring people in. We have sommeliers, sorry sommeliers out there, I know a couple of you, hi. We have their little pens and little tests and stuff like that, and I think we forget that it's not about the rules, it's about the people. And you go to a French restaurant, we're not in France, so it's not really a French restaurant. It's French inspired, but we're seeing what inspired that chef to be inspired to make a French restaurant, you know? I mean, so, like, a lot of this stuff, they pull from different parts of the world, but at the end of the day, it's from the person that made it, it's from the place they got the fruit, it's from the farmers that grew the fruit, and the more connection between those points coming together, you get a better product. You get something more trustworthy, just like a farm-to-table restaurant is buying, you know, fruit, corn from, you know, down Highway 62, you know. Wait, 63 here.
63?
63 in Rochester? Yeah.
63, yeah. 52 and 63.
Yeah, there you go, 62. I don't know, too many numbers. Don't ask the dyslexic, but yes.
Just go to the farmer's market. Yes. So directly support the producers and the farmers and things like that. Yeah. Well, I think we did it. Do you have other surprise wines?
Not today.
Great.
I'll come just check into the next one. And
yeah, we'll do another one next time. Well, thank you so much for being here, Tyler. and
Always.
It's just so fun to drink wine with you.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. Cheers.
Great.
Can I try some wine?
Yes.
Yes.
You get to
Sean
keep
can
all
try
these
some
wines.
Probably say like, if you like this video.
No. Oh, if you like this video, yeah. Sorry, I think if you like this wine, good luck finding it.
Good luck finding it. Yeah, like where do people get the wine?
Good luck finding it.
Can they just like mail
I mean,
order?
yeah, these are all tiny production and they're around.
know.
They're not in national
I
distribution.
know.
But
I'll put a link in the comment
Yeah.
to like of where I know Minnesota carries.
Yeah,
Because
for
that's
that.
like kind of what I know. Some of it figured out, but I'll put another link for a company or like these manufacturers, importers.
Yeah, call the wineries. I mean,
information.
it's amazing. You're not calling with these people. You're calling someone's cell phone. You're calling like the house line. I mean, like these are not big businesses here. You're gonna talk to a human being that will tell you exactly who their friends are in whatever state you're hanging out in.
That's
and
amazing.
Yeah, it's the way to do this thing.
That's awesome. Well, if you like this video, comment, like, subscribe. I think that's what people say.
I'll drink to that.
Drink to that. Oh, wait, we need a little more wine.
more of this.
Yeah, Sean, come try some wine. Cheers.